Hello guys, we hope everyone is well. This is the last part of our beautiful story, and we hope you all like it. Let's get started. Tom sat by the river, watching the water flow steadily beneath the old stone bridge. It was a serene spot, one where he often came to think. Today, his thoughts were heavy with the events of the past few weeks. He remembered the argument with his best friend, Sarah. Harsh words had been exchanged, and a rift had formed between them. It felt like the bridge of trust they had built over years of friendship was about to collapse. Tom sighed and picked up a pebble, tossing it into the river. The ripples spread out, distorting the reflection of the bridge above. He knew he needed to mend things with Sarah, but he wasn't sure how. As he pondered, an elderly man approached and sat down beside him. Tom recognized him as Mr. Bennett, a retired teacher who often walked along the river. "Deep in thought, I see," Mr. Bennett said with a gentle smile. Tom nodded. "Yeah, just thinking about some things." Mr. Bennett looked at the bridge. "You know, this bridge has stood here for over a century. It's seen countless storms and floods, but it's still standing strong. Do you know why?" Tom shook his head. "It's because it was built with care and maintained with trust. The stones were laid by people who trusted each other to do their part. Over the years, people continued to trust in its strength and made repairs when needed." Tom looked at the bridge, then at Mr. Bennett. "Are you saying I need to fix my relationship with Sarah?" Mr. Bennett chuckled. "Well, relationships are like bridges, Tom. They need to be built on a solid foundation of trust. And when cracks appear, you need to repair them before they become too large to fix." Tom thought about this. He realized that he had let his pride get in the way of repairing the crack between him and Sarah. "But what if she doesn't want to fix it?" he asked. "Trust works both ways," Mr. Bennett said. "You need to show her that you're willing to put in the effort. Trust that she'll see your sincerity and meet you halfway." Tom nodded, feeling a sense of clarity. He knew what he had to do. He needed to reach out to Sarah, apologize, and show her that he valued their friendship. It wouldn't be easy, but if their friendship was as strong as he believed, it would withstand this storm. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the river, Tom stood up. He felt a renewed sense of purpose. The bridge of trust between him and Sarah might have a few cracks, but it wasn't beyond repair. With effort and sincerity, he was determined to make it stronger than ever. He thanked Mr. Bennett and walked away from the river, ready to rebuild the bridge that meant so much to him. Elian settled into his favorite armchair, the soft leather creaking under his weight. The room was dimly lit by the flickering flames of the fireplace, casting long shadows on the walls. His grandchildren gathered around him, their eyes wide with anticipation. This was their favorite time of the evening, when Elian would share stories from his past, each tale filled with lessons and wisdom. "Tonight," Elian began, his voice a low, comforting rumble, "I want to share with you some of the wisdom I've gathered over the years. Life is a great teacher, if you're willing to listen." He paused, letting the silence draw them in, and then began his first story. "Many years ago, in a small village much like ours, there lived a farmer who worked his fields with great care and dedication. One year, after planting his crops, a terrible drought struck. His neighbors, seeing their fields dry and barren, gave up hope and abandoned their farms. But the farmer remained patient. He continued to tend to his fields, watering them with what little water he could find, and praying for rain. Months passed, and still no rain came. The farmer's patience was tested daily. But he never gave up. Finally, one evening, dark clouds gathered and rain poured down, drenching the parched earth. The farmer's crops flourished, and he reaped a bountiful harvest. "The lesson here," Elian said, looking each grandchild in the eye, "is patience. Sometimes, in the darkest times, patience and perseverance are what see us through. Once there was a king known for his wisdom and humility. Unlike other rulers, he often walked among his people, listening to their concerns and learning from their experiences. One day, a wise old man approached him and said, 'Your Majesty, you are the greatest king our land has ever known. What is your secret?' The king replied, I am not great because of my power or wealth. I am great because I never stop learning. I listen to my people, for they are the true source of wisdom." The old man nodded and said, "Indeed, wisdom is not in the crown, but in the heart that seeks to understand." From this, remember, Elian continued, true wisdom comes from humility and the willingness to learn from everyone around you. In a coastal village, there lived a young sailor who dreamed of exploring the vast, uncharted seas. One day, a fierce storm struck, wrecking many ships and causing great fear among the villagers. But the young sailor, driven by his dreams and bravery, set out alone to rescue those stranded at sea. Despite the raging waves and howling winds, he navigated through the storm, saving countless lives. When he returned, the villagers hailed him as a hero. But he simply said, "I did what needed to be done." Bravery is not the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it. Remember, Elian said, his voice softening, true bravery is doing what is right, even when you are scared. As the flames in the fireplace flickered and danced, Elian's grandchildren sat in silence, absorbing the wisdom of his stories. Elian knew that these tales, passed down through the generations, would live on in their hearts, guiding them through their own lives. And so, Elian concluded, the wisdom of ages is not just in the stories we tell, but in the lessons we learn and pass on. Never forget the power of patience, humility, and bravery. With that, Elian leaned back in his chair, a contented smile on his face as the fire crackled and the night grew deeper. Tom stood at the edge of the cliff, the wind howling around him like a beast unleashed from the depths of his own soul. The sky was dark, heavy with the promise of rain, mirroring the turmoil that raged inside him. Just a few hours ago, everything had seemed so clear, so certain. Now, all he could see was a churning sea of doubts and fears. He clenched his fists, feeling the rough texture of the rock beneath his fingers. The storm within him had been building for days, fed by worries he couldn't name and fears he dared not face. It wasn't just about the argument with his father, or the breakup with Lily. It was something deeper, something that gnawed at his very core. The first drops of rain began to fall, cold and stinging against his skin. Tom welcomed them, hoping they might wash away the confusion and anger that clouded his mind. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, to find some sense of calm amidst the chaos. Resilience, he thought. That's what I need. The word echoed in his mind, a lifeline in the storm. He had heard it so many times before, from coaches, teachers, and even his friends. But what did it really mean? How could he find it within himself, when everything seemed so hopeless? Tom closed his eyes and let the memories come. He thought of his mother, her gentle smile and the way she used to comfort him when he was a child. He remembered the stories she told him about heroes who faced impossible odds and still found a way to triumph. She always said that true strength came from within, that it was about finding the courage to keep going, no matter what. With a shuddering breath, Tom opened his eyes. The storm was raging now, the rain falling in sheets, the wind whipping at his clothes. But he felt different. Something had shifted inside him, a small spark of determination igniting in the darkness. He took a step back from the edge, then another. The rock beneath his feet felt more solid, the ground more sure. He wasn't alone. He had his memories, his mother's wisdom, and his own inner strength to guide him. As Tom turned to make his way back down the cliff, he knew the storm within him hadn't disappeared. It was still there, still powerful. But he had faced it, acknowledged it, and in doing so, found a resilience he hadn't known he possessed. Resilience, he thought again, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. It's about facing the storm and knowing you can survive it. And with that, he walked on, ready to face whatever came next. Tom had always been a curious soul, eager to explore the world around him. Yet, it wasn't until this moment that he truly began to understand the depths of life. Sitting by the old oak tree, he felt as though a veil had been lifted from his eyes, revealing the intricate patterns and connections that wove the fabric of existence. As the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a gentle glow on the ground, Tom reflected on his journey. He realized that every experience, every hardship, and every joy had been a lesson leading him to this point. The world, with all its complexities and mysteries, started to make sense in a way it never had before. Understanding is not just about knowledge, Tom mused. It's about seeing the bigger picture, appreciating the interconnectedness of all things. Tom thought back to the people he had met along the way. Each person had contributed a piece to his puzzle of understanding. Mr. Jenkins, the wise old man who taught him the importance of patience and listening. Sarah, his childhood friend, who showed him the value of kindness and empathy. The travelers he encountered, who shared stories of far-off places, broadening his perspective. These encounters were not mere coincidences, but pivotal moments that shaped his perception and growth. With this newfound clarity, Tom felt a sense of peace and purpose. He understood that life was not just about reaching a destination, but about the journey and the lessons learned along the way. The light of understanding had illuminated his path, guiding him towards a future filled with hope and wisdom. Tom stood up, feeling lighter and more confident than ever before. He knew that challenges would still arise, but he now had the insight to face them with grace and resilience. The light of understanding was not a final destination but a continuous journey of growth and discovery. The journey of understanding is endless, Tom thought, and I am ready to embrace it with an open heart and mind. With a final glance at the old oak tree, Tom walked away, carrying the light of understanding within him, ready to illuminate the next chapter of his life. Tom returns to his village with newfound wisdom and maturity. As Tom walked down the familiar path leading to his village, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had changed him profoundly. The once carefree boy who had left was now a man with a deeper understanding of the world and his place in it. The village looked much the same as it had when he left, but Tom saw it with new eyes. The houses, the fields, and even the old oak tree by the river seemed to hold a different meaning. He noticed the small details he had once overlooked, the intricate patterns carved into the doorframes, the vibrant colors of the flowers lining the pathways, and the laughter of children playing in the distance. As he entered the village, familiar faces greeted him with smiles and warm embraces. There was Old Man Jenkins, who had always told him stories of far-off lands, Mrs. Thompson, who baked the best apple pies, and his childhood friends, who had shared countless adventures with him. "Tom! Is it really you?" Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, wiping her hands on her apron. "You've grown so much!" Tom smiled and nodded. "It's me, Mrs. Thompson. I've missed everyone here." In the days that followed, Tom shared his experiences with the villagers. He spoke of the challenges he had faced, the lessons he had learned, and the people he had met along the way. The villagers listened with rapt attention, inspired by his tales of courage and perseverance. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Tom gathered the children around the old oak tree. He told them stories of distant lands, brave heroes, and the importance of kindness and understanding. The children listened with wide eyes, hanging on to every word. Tom's return brought a renewed sense of hope and unity to the village. He used his newfound wisdom to help solve disputes, improve farming techniques, and encourage education for all. The village thrived under his guidance, and Tom found a deep sense of fulfillment in giving back to the community that had raised him. Years later, as Tom stood by the river, watching the sun rise over the horizon, he realized that his journey had come full circle. He had left in search of adventure and wisdom, and he had returned with a heart full of love and a spirit dedicated to making the world a better place. Elian stood at the edge of the ancient forest, the towering trees casting long shadows in the early morning light. His eyes, though aged, still held a spark of wisdom and clarity. It was time to pass on his legacy, and Tom, his diligent apprentice, stood ready to receive it. "Tom," Elian began, his voice soft but firm, "the knowledge I have gathered over the years is not just for me. It is for the world, and now it is your turn to carry it forward." Tom nodded, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and reverence. He had trained under Elian for years, learning the ways of the forest, the secrets of the ancient texts, and the delicate balance of nature and magic. Elian reached into his robe and pulled out an intricately carved wooden box. "This," he said, handing the box to Tom. Contains the essence of our wisdom. Open it. With trembling hands, Tom opened the box to reveal a crystal vial filled with a shimmering liquid. What is this? He asked, awestruck. This is the elixir of knowledge, Elian explained. It is a distilled essence of everything we stand for. Drink it, and our legacy will become a part of you. Tom hesitated for a moment, then took the vial and drank the elixir. As the liquid touched his lips, he felt a surge of energy and understanding flow through him. Memories, insights, and the wisdom of countless generations flooded his mind. Elian smiled, seeing the transformation in Tom's eyes. You are ready, he said. Go forth and continue our work. Protect the forest, honor the ancient ways, and pass on the legacy when the time comes. Tom bowed deeply. I will, Master Elian. I will not let you down. And with that, Elian turned and walked into the forest, his figure slowly disappearing among the trees. Tom stood there for a moment, feeling the weight and honor of his new responsibility. Then, with renewed determination, he set off to fulfill his destiny. Certainly. Here's a brief continuation for Ch. Tom stood on the hill overlooking the village, the horizon painted with the hues of an early sunset. The once bustling streets below now seemed more serene, a reflection of the peace that had settled over the community. Years had passed since Tom had embarked on his journey of self-discovery. In that time, he had learned many lessons, faced numerous challenges, and grown immeasurably. But perhaps the most significant realization came to him when he understood the importance of passing on his knowledge and experiences to others. Tom had become a mentor, a guide for the younger generation. He found joy in teaching them the skills he had acquired, from practical knowledge to the deeper wisdom of understanding oneself and the world. His mentorship was not just about imparting information, but about fostering a sense of curiosity, resilience, and compassion. One of his most promising students, Emily, stood beside him now. She had a spark in her eyes that reminded Tom of his younger self. Tom, she said, breaking the silence, I think I'm ready. Tom turned to her, a smile playing on his lips. You are, Emily. You've always been ready. It's just a matter of believing in yourself. Emily nodded, taking in his words. She had been training under Tom's guidance for years, and now it was her turn to step into the world and make her mark. Remember, Tom continued, the journey is just as important as the destination. Every step you take, every person you meet, every challenge you face, they all contribute to who you are and who you will become. Emily looked out at the village, absorbing the weight of his words. Thank you, Tom, she said softly. For everything. Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Go on, Emily. It's your turn to shine. As Emily descended the hill, Tom watched her with a sense of pride and fulfillment. He knew that the cycle of wisdom would continue, and the future was in good hands. The new beginning was not just Emily's, but a continuation of the legacy of knowledge and growth that Tom had embraced. And so, the sun set on the village, marking the end of one chapter and the start of another. Tom's heart swelled with hope and gratitude, knowing that he had played a part in shaping the future. The journey of life was ever evolving, and with each new beginning, there was the promise of endless possibilities.